my name is Adriana, and it's good to see you again. And if you're new here, it's nice to meet you. I'm just gonna jump right into it. I read all 4 of the Monster High books. I spent today and yesterday reading the entirety of the Monster High series. I'm just gonna talk at you about Monster High. This is just gonna be about Monster High. Nothing else matters to me right now but Monster High. If you all remember, and you probably do, Monster High was real popular in like 2010-ish. It basically is a series revolving around teenage girls who are monsters in high school. The series, I have to admit, was very fun, and young Adriana enjoyed it a lot. And by a lot, I mean I obsessed over it to no end. Monster High, around this time when it hit its peak, was very marketable. It had its web show, of course the dolls, which Mattel loved to shove down everyone's throats in the Target aisle, and then we got the really cool CGI movies, which have very different animation than the web series, and we just didn't question it as kids. So it's no surprise to me that they wanted to make Monster High books. It honestly is a smart move. I really can't get mad at it, considering how great the popularity of Monster High was to have a series, an ongoing series with an actual plot. The Monster High book, if we can do some, what is the word? Housekeeping before we actually talk about the 4 books, is a lot different than the web series or movies that you do know. For example, in this book, Monster High isn't a thing. The school of Monster High that we know and love isn't real yet. Instead, it's a school called Merston High. So the series takes place at Merston High in Oregon, where monsters and humans live together, but the humans don't know that there's monsters. Basically, an overview of the series is that monsters were being hunted and prosecuted, and so they hid and took refuge in Salem, Oregon, instead of Salem, Massachusetts, because apparently they got the RSVP wrong. The series follows 2 characters, Frankenstein, of course, as we all know, who is the main character of Monster High, and a human named Melody Carver. And of course, the series has all our beloved faves that we know and love. There is Claudine Wolfe, Laguna Blue, who they just call Blue because, God forbid, a teenage girl have the name Laguna. Deuce is there. He hides his snakes by wearing a hat, because that's gonna fool everyone. A hat to hide live snakes that are constantly hissing. We have Cleo Denial, who's, I'll talk more about her in her book, which is the 2nd one. And then my girl, Draculaura, who for some reason in this book they call Lala. Why? Her name is Draculaura. Laura! You just call her Laura. What? And they do it for the entire series. Her name is Lala. Her father calls her Lala. I understand you can't call her Draculaura. Can't let the humans know. No. Can't let them know. So Lala was your solution? It actually makes me mad. And I don't know why. I don't know why I have such a problem with it, but it angers me. The Monster High series starts with Frankie being born. She just was built out of the woodworks. The few pages are describing that she can hear her parents talk about how perfect she is and how beautiful she is and how grateful that they finally have a daughter. At the same time, we are introduced to Melody Carver, the new girl in Salem, Oregon. Melody is described as different from her parents and her sister because she used to have a big nose. Like, her nose was big. Her parents were embarrassed that she had this big nose. I can't make this up. But before coming to Oregon, her dad's a plastic surgeon. They fixed her nose. Hallelujah. Now we can bear to look at her. Finally. Candace and Melody go into the house, their new house. They pick their rooms, and outside they see a cute boy. A cute nerdy boy. Melody and Candace meet the cute nerdy boy, and it turns out his name is Jackson. Yeah, It's Jackson. It's Jackson Jekyll.
I'm, Jackson.
Melody and Jackson exchange numbers for some reason. Frankie's parents tell her that she's gonna be able to go to school. She's 15 days old, and now she's gonna go into the real world and finally be able to meet real people. The thing that Frankie doesn't know is that she does not look like other people. Unbeknownst to her, her parents put on makeup, wear like scarves and stuff to hide their bolts, and they assimilate into the real world. And what Frankie doesn't know is that people hate monsters and they hate people who look like her. And she never knew because in her Cosmopolitan magazine, it says to love yourself. But apparently that doesn't apply if you have to charge the electricity flowing through your body every single night. Frankie's parents tell her that she has to wear makeup over her green skin, has to hide her bolt, has to hide her stitches, and she has to look like every single teenage girl out there. Frankie detests this, and so she wants to be herself. On the first day of school, Frankie has no makeup on, bolts showing, scars, stitches out. Oh, how could she? Her parents drop her off. She gets bullied by cheerleaders. They ruthlessly bully her and say that she's gonna eat them. And Frankie cries. And apparently, they brought her to the wrong school. It wasn't even her school. It wasn't even Mernston High. And it was a Sunday. They just did it to teach Frankie a lesson and scar her so she'll never be herself. Of course it works. Cut to Mernston High, first day of school. Frankie and Melody meet. Frankie shocks Melody. Melody is like, wow, that's not normal. And Jackson walks up to Melody. Now Melody is mad because Jackson hasn't been answering her call. But it turns out Melody is just so silly and quirky, she got his number wrong. So silly. Jackson and Melody go to sit down at lunch together, and then she bumps into Cleo. Denial. Cleo drops her lunch, and Cleo says to Melody that she has to give her lunch because she dropped hers, and that's just courtesy. Melody says no, so Cleo reacts in the only way that Cleo Denial knows how to react. She kisses Jackson in front of Melody. I'm actually really embarrassed to say that I audibly gasped during this part. How genuinely, I'm not even being sarcastic, I'm not even making it funny, how could she do that to her? So, once Cleo kisses Jackson, he starts acting weird. He starts acting a little different. Jackson starts acting different. Melody is crying, mortified, she just feels horrible. What a great first day at Mernston High. These girls named Becca and Haley introduce themselves. Haley's not important. Becca introduces herself to Melody and says, hey, you and me, we gotta stand up to people like Cleo Denial. So Becca befriends Melody because Melody, you know, just doesn't have any other friends. We soon come to learn that Becca is the true monster of the story, but more on that later. Frankie then goes to her first class where she meets a boy named DJ. Frankie meets DJ. DJ ruthlessly flirts with her because that's just the kind of guy DJ is. Frankie then meets Blue and Lala. And Blue and Lala invite her to the spa as a nice girls' day out. And Frankie is so excited because she's never had friends. She's only been alive 15 days. A weird part happens where Becca and Melody see Cleo kissing Deuce. Cleo and Melody start bickering. Becca, the genius that she is, says to Melody, oh, go kiss Deuce as revenge. And Melody does it in front of everybody, and then Melody comes to learn that Jackson saw the whole thing, and he had flowers for her. Flowers that she thought were for Cleo were actually for her. I genuinely don't know why Melody kissed Deuce. That just seemed... First of all, why would you ever listen to Becca? Ever. My favorite chapter in this entire book is chapter 10. In this chapter, Frankie's going to the spa with the girls. There's Lala, Blue, Claudine, and Cleo, who are all friends. They all get into the car and they're just hanging out and having fun. We see their little monster quirks that Frankie somehow doesn't realize are monster quirks. I really can't blame her. Like I said, she's 15 days old. All the girls go to the spa. Frankie is gonna get in the tanning bed to recharge her volts, but it doesn't go well because she electrifies the tanning bed and the entire power of the spa goes out, and she's absolutely mortified, runs out crying, because she thinks her human friends will never accept her. I really like chapter 10 because it's why we love Monster High. It's just these girls who are fun, quirky monsters interacting. They all have their cool attributes about them that make them the monsters that they are. But they set their differences aside and just are friends, and they go to the mall and they go shopping and they go to the spa. It's a cute chapter to read. Jackson enters Melody's room and says, "Look, I'm sorry, I didn't even know I kissed Cleo. I have blackouts. If something happens to me and I black out and I don't remember what I do." Melody believes this, which I mean it is true, but like if a guy kissed a girl in front of me and it was like, "Sorry, I blacked out," not a valid excuse. All the monsters in Oregon have a meeting. I forgot to mention that the monsters don't call themselves monsters in this series, they call themselves RADs, regular attribute dodgers. I know a normie made that up. There's no way. There's no way a monster willingly was like, "Yeah, let's call ourselves RADs. Let's do that. Let's all do that." I know a normie did it first and they were forced to continue it because honestly, saying monsters is less offensive. They're called to this RAD meeting and Frankie finds out that, oh my gosh, the girls are monsters and that Claudine is hairy because she's a werewolf and that the fur on her neck is her fur. In the RAD meeting, they talk about there's a Halloween party that's gonna happen called Monster Mash. Merton High is having a Monster Mash and the monsters don't like it. But Frankie, being the 15-day-old genius that she is, says that why don't we attend the party as ourselves? We can finally have a chance to go as ourselves. And every single adult in the room shoots down that idea because that is a horrible, dangerous idea. You could literally put everybody in danger, Frankie. And we'll soon learn that Frankie doesn't care. Another scene happens with Jackson and Melody. They're under a blanket, they smooch, and then Jackson starts acting weird again. And Melody goes home crying because she was having a great time with Jackson and now he's acting weird again. Another weird scene happens where Melody and Becca are like costume finding for the Halloween Monster Mash. And Melody tells Becca everything that happened with Jackson. And Becca says that she should go with Deuce instead, which doesn't make sense to me because Deuce is literally dating Cleo, but for some reason Deuce agrees to go as Melody's date. The drama. After that, Jackson goes to Melody's room, basically breaks in. I think her parents let her in, but I didn't. He breaks in, and Jackson tries to explain that it really is just him blacking out. And then Melody starts recording as if, like, I don't know why. It's not explained. Like, she even, in the book, she says herself, "Why am I doing this?" And he transforms into DJ. DJ basically explains the whole Jekyll and Hyde situation and that when Jackson overheats, something in his DNA causes him to turn into DJ, which I think is a worse explanation than what the web series did, which was just music turns him into Holt Hyde. I like that explanation a lot more than mutated sweat. But I digress. The girls go to the Monster Mash as themselves because Frankie doesn't listen to anybody. They go and they're actually having a nice time and they realize how nice it is to not have to hide their attributes. And everything's going great until it's not going great. Becca is dressed up as Frankenstein's bride and calls Frankie's outfit horrible, which Frankie should have just electrocuted her right then and there and saved us the trouble of having to deal with her for the next 2 books. Brett, Becca's boyfriend, who Frankie had the hots for earlier, finds Frankie, mistakes her for Becca, and then kisses her. And then rips her head off. Frankie's head comes clean off. Brett steps back, realizes that he just decapitated this girl, and faints, is essentially in a coma after that and is transported to the hospital. While Frankie's decapitated, Becca shows her true colors and snoops through Melody's phone, finds the video where Jackson transforms into DJ, and sends it to herself. Becca is real mad that Brett kissed some monster and is more worried that some monster kissed her boyfriend than her boyfriend being in a coma. Becca basically tells Melody that she has 48 hours to bring the monster to her or she will air the video to the entire world. This whole thing happens where Jackson transforms into DJ, goes and finds Frankie, goes to Frankie's house because DJ is still in love with Frankie, transforms back, goes to Melody. Melody tells Jackson everything that's happening. Jackson's like, I know where she lives. And then they go together and then Jackson transforms back into DJ and then Melody and Frankie promise to get that video back and to save the monsters. And that was the end of the first book. If we're talking critically, I thought it was a really good story. It was a good introduction to the series, and I actually really liked reading it. I wish I could say the same for the rest of the series. Feel denial, you so beguiled, even though you act so vile. Book 2, The Ghoul Next Door. This book now follows Cleo Denio instead of Frankie. Not really, Frankie's still the main character and the main focus, but Cleo does have her own little quirky side plot which is not quirky and infuriated me to genuinely no end. All the monsters are basically forced to hide their children inside because Frankie doomed and endangered all of them. Cut to Cleo in her home and her dad's home, and her dad basically tells her that he sat next to the CEO of Teen Vogue. Cleo, caring more about Teen Vogue than anything else her dad says, eagerly wants to know more. Her dad basically tells her that they're doing an Egyptian theme for their next shoot. Cleo, wondering why she is not a model, demands to be a model and has her dad pull some strings so she can model in this Egyptian photo shoot. We cut back to Melody, who told her sister Candace everything that's happening with the monsters. Frankie is grounded, as she should be, because she endangered every single monster. Frankie then is helped by Invisibility. Invisibility gives Frankie a phone and says that he is inspired by her and that she inspired all the other monster kids and that they want to help her because they are sick and tired of living in the shadows. Cut to Frankie's house. She holds a monster meeting where she basically admits she's gonna turn herself in. All her friends are surprised that Frankie has such little will to live that she would willingly set up her own execution because, let's face it, if she presented herself to Salem, Oregon as a monster alone, they would probably kill her. Billy comes in, says he has a plan, and they work out this whole great scheme. Listen to this. Billy is going to dress up like Frankie, green paint and all. Victor, Frankie's dad, can make a mold of Frankie's face that Billy can wear, and Billy can present himself as the monster and then rip like his seams and stuff like that, so it looks like Frankie tore herself apart, and then now the humans don't have to worry about monsters anymore. Now we cut to the hospital and this just great mess. Brett is literally in a coma after decapitating Frankie, and there's just news reporters and people surrounding him wanting to know if he'll ever wake up. Melody and Billy are going to the hospital and they sneak in, they sneak past the guy. Cut to Brett, who's waking up and he thinks that he kissed Becca, not Frankie, so he's mortified that he decapitated Becca. Becca says to the reporters that no, the monster sucked his brain out. And this is why he's acting so crazy. We need to kill all monsters. Billy comes in, dressed as Frankie, says that he'll leave Brett alone. Brett basically tells Frankie Billy that no, because that was the best kiss he's had in his entire life. Literally, that's what he says in front of all of these reporters and his own girlfriend. Becca is so mad that Frankie, Billy, and Brett are becoming friends and that they are okay with each other, that she grabs her iPad and on national TV shows the video of Jackson transforming into DJ. When I said that Becca is the true monster of this book, I meant it. She is just horrible. Melody, trying to distract the reporters, tells Billy to take off his clothes because he didn't paint the green under the clothes. He didn't paint it green, so it's just invisible under his clothes. So he does that, runs, people run after him, and then they find the Frankie mold that he left behind, and they come to the conclusion that this was all an elaborate prank. The police are literally interrogating Becca, and Becca says, no, of course it wasn't a prank. I would never do this. Melody rushes to her defense and says, "Hey now, it was a funny prank." Becca says that Melody will essentially rue the day she was born and starts the whole Becca is a horrible person arc that will continue until the end of book 3. Cleo hates that the detention is not on her, so tells Draculaura, Claudine, and Laguna that they'll be models for her Teen Vogue shoot, which they're not going to be, but like she'll pull some strings and it'll happen because, you know, Teen Vogue photo shoots are just of whim, and we can do whatever we want to them, and we can twist and shape them to our desire. Brett meets the real Frankie and they flirt. Brett brings Frankie daisies because that's how you apologize for decapitating somebody. Brett basically tells Frankie that he wants to help and that he wants to make a documentary showcasing monsters and how they're not so different from humans. Cleo wants to destroy the film and teams up with Becca to destroy the film. They don't. They learn that the guy who wants to show the video on national TV won't do it unless the monsters' faces aren't blurred. Of course, Brett doesn't agree to this because that's suicide and doesn't want to publish the video anymore, to Frankie's dismay. Cleo's like, cool, whatever, now I can have my Teen Vogue photo shoot, because the air date of the video was supposed to be the same day as Cleo's Teen Vogue shoot. And that's way more important than liberating her people. The film ends up being aired anyway, with the faces unblurred, and it destroys the monster community. Literally, the monsters are going to be hunted. Their lives are in danger more so than before. We just fixed one situation, the monsters were going to be hunted, and now another one happens. The entire monster community is screwed. You have essentially monsters on camera, on live TV, being shown, admitting that they live in Salem, Oregon. They accuse Cleo of having to do with it because she was with Becca and they assume Becca's the one who unblurred it. They have no evidence for this. They just want to be mad. Anyway, the Teen Vogue photo shoot happens, but Draculaura, Claudine, and Lagoon don't want to go because obviously Cleo screwed them over. So Melody goes with her sister Candace to tell Cleo the situation. The photographers mistake Melody and Candace for models. The whole point is that the camels start running off set, and Melody, with her gorgeous voice that she now has back, lures them back. Cleo's assistant makes a jab at Melody, basically saying like, oh, like you remind me so much of Marina. And Melody's like, who's Marina? And the servant's like, your mom, duh. And it's just like, oh, never mind, you're probably not Marina's daughter. Marina's daughter had an ugly nose and you don't. And Melody's like, ooh. Essentially the book ends with just a mess. The monster community is about to be hunted. Everything is bad. Everything looks bad. And it's somehow not Cleo's fault. The plot was a little harder to follow in this book than the first one. It was kind of all over the place. And now we cut to the third book, which takes place right after the second. The book is called Where There's a Wolf, There's a Way, and it centers mostly around Claudine Wolfe. This is where the series goes downhill, so if my motivation decreases, forgive me. The entire monster community is screwed over. Thanks again, Frankie. They all have to leave Salem, Oregon, and they all have to change their identities, to which the monsters dismay because they have lives in Oregon. Pretend to be humans, they have careers and families that they started up, they have friends. They really are having a hard time just dropping everything and leaving. But the other option is death, so they leave. Everyone's like mad at Frankie's dad for milling Frankie, and it's really funny. They hear like, Victor, you couldn't program some common sense into her, and they're just all arguing and mad at Victor. I should probably talk about the Billy side plot. There are some pretty cool chapters in the books where as you're reading them, they fade, like the text intentionally fades, and these chapters are about Billy, and it basically talks about how Billy feels invisible, cause he is, and basically says that he doesn't have a chance with anybody, especially not Frankie, who he is madly in love with. In this book, Billy gets a makeover by Candace, and he looks human now because she drew on his face. Melody finds out from her parents that she's adopted because she had black hair and an ugly nose. Of course she's not their daughter. She runs out. Claude and Claudine see her run out of the house crying, but don't do anything about it. If you see me talk so little about Claudine, it's because her only importance in this book is that she wants to have her sassy 16 party, and she's really sad that monsters are being persecuted. Not because she's afraid for herself and for her community, because she really wanted to have her sweet 16 party. Claudine basically takes the role of Cleo in this book, wants something selfish for her own selfish needs, and doesn't really care that much about the community burning around her because she just wants her party. Frankie texts Brett that, like, where are you? Like, you haven't shown your face, it's basically your fault. And Brett tells her never to contact him again.
Is no time for jokes, I get that.
Throughout the book, Melody has powers with her voice that she can basically tell anyone to do anything as long as she gives a command with her voice and they listen. When she does this, sometimes feathers appear on her shoulders. They don't question that at all, really. It just kind of happens. There's like a side thing where Billy, now being gorgeous and visible, gives Frankie Lady Gaga tickets. And Frankie, of course, how could she resist? Plus, everyone Epic Style owns Becca and says that she's a horrible person. And then we learned that Haley signed a contract in like elementary school to be Becca's slave. Melody makes Becca rip that contract up, and Melody talks to her parents again. And I genuinely can't make this next part up if I tried. When Candace was born, Melody's parents, Gloria and Beau, basically told themselves that they'll never be able to have a daughter as perfect looking as Candace. So Beau has a vasectomy so they can never have another kid because the first one is just too perfect to top. They regret this decision, and instead of reversing the vasectomy, they're looking to adopt, and they adopt the girl named Melody. Such a weird point. She's adopted because her parents were afraid of having an ugly baby. A whole scene happens where Frankie goes to meet Brett, and Brett gives Frankie Lady Gaga tickets, but like Billy already gave Frankie Lady Gaga tickets, so she can't accept them, but Brett kisses her, so like everything's okay, I guess. Because the whole... Why? If you're wondering about Claudine and her party, never fear, because somehow it's still going to happen. Melody basically convinces a lot of people, normies and monsters alike, to go to Claudine's party because Melody's voice is just so hypnotic they can't say no. A whole scene happens where like Billy kisses Frankie and Frankie kisses back, even though like 3 chapters before she already kissed Brett. And why are they doing this to Frankie? Why are you kissing back a boy that you don't like? Frankie Stein. The party happens and people are making fun of Claudine for being a wolf and being hairy because it's the full moon and she basically gets hairier and her claws get longer and her teeth are fangier. But Claudine says she doesn't care. She should be herself. She doesn't want to hide from the normies anymore. Thus, the party continues. Normies and monsters dancing together. We did it. Oh, also Melody is a siren. Not like the fish, like mermaid siren, Greek mythology bird woman, like a harpy. Her mom actually is Marina and left her notes and says, hey, I'm your mom and you're a siren. I like that they had a party at the end where they could basically all dance together and be like cool and happy together. Honestly, this book is not better than the first, kind of on the same par than the second. It's just, it's... And then we have the 4th book, Back and Deader Than Ever. And that's when everything starts to go downhill. This book, for lack of a better word, was kind of painful to read. Jackie Laura, if you can't tell by looking at me, is my favorite Monster High character. I love her. I love everything about her. Her cute, like, personality, how she's, like, not afraid to get what she wants, how she loves helping her friends. I love her, and I was so excited to read this book because it's focusing on her, except it's not really. Once again, we're focusing on Frankie Stein. This book takes place 9 months after Where There's a Wolf, There's a Way. And guys, we did it. We ended monster prejudice. Claudine's Sweet 16 was so amazing. It ended the hate between monsters and humans. It dismantled it. It's over. We did it, America. So much so that literally all the kids, the monsters in Mernston High, they go to school, no makeup, no weird baggy clothes, no scarves, nothing. They go to school just as their monster selves. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, no, the normies should hate them. Obviously, it's great that the normies of Salem, Oregon accept them. But like, it was that easy. Just like that, it was over. Years of persecuting monsters and making them out to be this horrible, scary, demonic things. And just like that, it's over because of one girl's sweet 16. Basically, the whole big point of this book, Draculaura enters a contest where her school will be represented in a school that's like harmonized because of monsters and normies living together. Draculaura sends in her application. Draculaura mainly sends in her application just so her dad can approve of her. And of course, her dad just doesn't listen to her. Father of the Year award. I'm gonna have to mention this because the book doesn't. It's mentioned once and then mentioned again. And that was it. Draculaura's father, says to the monster community that we need to make a school for monsters. We cannot have normies and monsters going to school together anymore. It's just unfair to the normies. When I say it's only mentioned once, it's only mentioned once. There's a meeting where Dracula is like, hey, let's make a monster high. Some of the parents are like, yeah, that's a great idea. The kids are like, no, that feels like a step backward through all the progress we made. Dracula's like, screw you, this isn't up for debate. And then it's not mentioned again until the final few pages of the book. A whole thing with Frankie is that there needs to be a couple to represent the contest that Draculaura entered, and of course Draculaura can't be on camera to showcase how in love her and Claudine's brother, are. So there's a competition between Cleo and Deuce and Frankie and Brett, who are now dating, and they compete to be the figure of this contest, the best couple in the school that they can represent the school. This plot point is treated like they're running for president. It is so focused on, and it's made out to be so important when it's literally just a competition between who's the cuter couple. I think the reason that it got me so mad is because this is Draculaura's book. This is supposed to be about her. Yeah, we get a lot of chapters where Draculaura is basically trying to put together this contest and trying to represent the school well, but I think it's overshadowed by the cute couple contest that just the school can't stop talking about, more so than the contest that they won. I have to mention the whole side plot of Melody joining a band and Jackson not liking it. Jackson signs Melody and him up to be camp counselors for the summer without Melody's consent because he assumes that Melody would love to do that. Melody would rather be the lead singer of this hot new band called Grunge Goddess. Melody basically gets the role, becomes the lead, ignores all her other responsibilities like school, her other friends, and just focuses on this band. Jackson is not so much upset that Melody is ignoring everything in her life, more so upset that he isn't going to be a camp counselor with her. She's going on tour with her band and would rather go on tour with her band, you know, something that she's dreamed about doing, than being a camp counselor with her boyfriend. Obviously, the situation is literally resolved by Jackson transforming into DJ and going on tour with her. There's no conversation where Melody and Jackson make up. It's cool that Melody can use her siren powers in this book, but at what cost? The cost of her being a horrible person? The book ends with Monster High being like made. It's weird to me because I thought what they were doing, the whole point of having the contest was they didn't want Monster High to be made because they already were living in harmony with normies. But Monster High is built regardless. And all of this book was painful to read. They really should have stopped it at the third book because the main conflict in this was who was the cuter couple and should Melody cheat on her boyfriend with that cute gargoyle man. I can sit here all I want and nitpick on a middle grade book, But really, what's the point? The point of the entire Monster High novels is to advertise Monster High. Kids are gonna see Monster High in the title, know that the book is about Monster High characters, and they're gonna read it. And honestly, who can blame them? I was having fun with like the little quirks that the monsters had that were written, and honestly, I loved that because of course I love Monster High, so just talking about their little monster quirks and the girls being friends with each other, it was fun to read. Are kids who are gonna read this gonna nitpick the little fine intricate details like I'm going to, you know, me being jaded? No, of course not. They're gonna see monsters in the title, they're gonna know it's about their favorite characters, and they're gonna read it. Probably without much hesitation, and they're not gonna look too much into it. Because of this series, I binged like 5 of the Monster High's movies, which I love and enjoyed because, of course, like I said, I love Monster High. I can nitpick about this series all I want, but at the end of the day, I love Monster High, and I loved and enjoyed reading these books because it's Monster High. I gotta give Lissy Harrison, the author of these books, credit where credit is due to make like an actual cohesive plot. Even though there are some little points about it that I didn't like along the way, it is a plot about Monster High when the bare minimum she could have done was just introduce the characters and have them interact. So I'm very grateful that she did give us a series and give us a story instead of just slapping characters that we know and love into this book and calling it a day. All in all, is the series bad? No, absolutely not. It does its job at advertising Monster High, and in a lot of the parts it does have the fun Monster High feel that we know and love, just appreciating these characters for what they are and who they are. And of course, we cannot ignore the big message that Monster High has of being yourself and not allowing other people to put you down for who you are and what you are. Sometimes this point gets overshadowed, a 4th book, but in a lot of cases, the message is done pretty well and I can't hate on it too much. My weird question is that I don't know who these books essentially were for, because as I mentioned earlier, the people who loved Monster High back in the day were mostly elementary school kids. So to make a middle grade book with like more like teenage adult jokes thrown in it was kind of a bold move. I don't know if 5th grade me reading this would understand a lot of the nuances in this book, but looking back on it now, I do appreciate them because me reading it, it was funny and didn't make it such a bore. But I do wonder if 5th grade me could actually follow the plot at hand. Would I recommend this series? If you're someone like me and someone on Booktube in general, part of the book community, that reads for fun but also likes to analyze and critique things about books, probably not. If you just want a fun Monster High, freaky just got fabulous time, then hell yeah, read the books. It'll be fun for you. That's all the time I have for the day, and I hope you enjoyed this very invasive review of a series that came out in 2010. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful life, a wonderful time, and I have to thank you for watching.